our next talk comes from Gintaras, who is a biodiversity conservation expert and has worked on numerous projects in Lithuania. One of them aimed at the renaturing of the largest abandoned peatland in Lithuania. And at the minute, he's a member of the Aquatic Warbler Conservation Project, which is also a live project. We've heard from multiple live projects already this week, and now we'll hear about the live project in association with the Aquatic Warbler. So whenever you're ready, Gintaras.
Hello everyone, I'm ready to present, and let's start with sharing my screen. Can you see it?
Yes, we can see it.
So my name is Gintaras Riauba, and I am working for Baltic Environment Forum Lithuania, and I would like to present our major work with the conservation of Europe's most rare passerine bird, aquatic warbler. The project, full project name is Stepping Stones Towards Ensuring Long-Term Favorable Conservation Status of Aquatic Warbler in Lithuania. And as I said already, Aquatic warbler is the most threatened passerine bird in continental Europe. And its population, total global population, considered to be only 11,000 singing males. So the bird is very rare, and breeding populations at the moment only occur in 4 countries in Europe. So, and these countries are Belarus, Ukraine, Poland, and Lithuania. And Lithuania has the smallest populations, most fragmented populations, but nevertheless, it's important species for us because it's a species of Birds Directive Annex 1, and that means that all the European member states should ensure conservation of local populations by establishing special protected areas. And species is categorized as vulnerable according IUCN criteria. And the main reasons of species global decline are following. First of all, I should mention that species suffer from damaged hydrological regime of habitats, because the habitat is usually drained and used for agriculture, and mainly it's flooded meadows or mires that are predominated by sedge vegetation. And the second cause of extinction or decline is abandonment or too intensive farming in breeding habitats. And one of the important factors also eutrophication, because some suitable habitats tend to overgrow with reeds and shrubs, some other woody vegetation that makes habitats also unsuitable for aquatic warbler. Also, high fragmentation of habitats also is recognized as one of the main threats, and low breeding success because of quite intensive farming in meadows which are still suitable for breeding of aquatic warbler, but also are mowed. So short introduction to species. As I mentioned already, habitat is usually huge open fen mires or wet meadows, which are mesotrophic or slightly eutrophic wetlands predominated by sedges. And the bird is a habitat specialist and can only survive in particular conditions. It has usually 2 broods per season, and only female is involved in feeding chicks. So males are mainly involved in searching for females and coupling with them. And that's one of the main risks, I would say, because all the broods are only fed by female, and one adult individual should find enough food to raise 5, sometimes 6 small chicks. And nest territories are very small. Nearly the food should be obtained in quite near to the nest, up to 30 meters in distance. And at the right, you can see a global map of distribution of aquatic warbler in Europe, in Poland, Belarus, Ukraine, and Lithuania. You can see greenish spots where breeding places are recognized, and the species winters in Eastern Africa, below Sahara Desert. So during migration, it travels quite a lot, about 6,000 kilometers. So in breeding places, they spend only nearly 3 to 4 months, and the rest of the time they spend during migrations and in wintering grounds in Africa. Main objectives of the project is to reduce fragmentation of aquatic warbler breeding habitats and stimulate connectivity between isolated populations. And this involves separate different actions as habitat restoration, which includes sometimes restoration of hydrological regime, sometimes bush removal, sometimes reeds removal, and stepping stone habitats. We are at the moment under preparation of study of performing research, and I would say a few words later on about this. Also, project aims to develop and apply a new conservation measures, translocation of birds from source population to smaller population, which is suffering some most detectable decline during last years, and I will explain it later on in more details. A translocation issue, and the third main objective is setting up a long-term socio-economic preconditions to maintain aquatic warbler breeding habitats, because as I said earlier, most habitats in Lithuania at least, are found in agricultural meadows and meadows that are used for agriculture, that are mowed regularly, and farmers declare their meadows for special agro-environmental measure and are intended to leave their meadows unmowed until late August, until middle of August. So after that period, they should mow, cut biomass, cut grass, which is not suitable for feeding of cattle or other animals, and this biomass should be used otherwise. So we are trying to making pellets from that late cut biomass and searching ways to how to use it in most proper way. And the map on the right shows all the project areas, which are 4 in Lithuania and 3 in Belarus, and the total area is more than 20,000 hectares, and most of it lays in Belarusian sites. Expected impact of the project is in habitat restoration, that habitats by bush removal will be affected nearly 1,000 hectares. In some other places are planned to cut reeds, and also in one Belarusian site it is planned to perform control burning, which is quite a new measure, and it is more cheaper and more effective in elimination of reed. And also water management will be performed in several territories in Lithuania and Belarus as well. And one peatland in Belarus is faced with rehabilitation because it is exploited peatland covered with bare dry peat, and we are planning to and already implementing raising of water level and to make suitable for grow of the typical sedge vegetation suitable for aquatic warbler, and also translocation, the method that was already tested and before our attempt, it was never been done before with this species, and also it is expected that business plan for late cut biomass use will be also functioning fully. Short results of the project, which are already known, that at least in Lithuania, aquatic warbler population already increased during the project. Project started in year 2016, and from the graph you can see above you can see that this year we had the most numerous population that was recorded from year 2000, and it's a success, and we believe that the project influenced this greatly. Also, already in the biggest mire, Zvanets mire in Belarus and in Žuvintos, water level management already implemented, and it was successful and ensured safe breeding conditions in these important sites. And also we already performed translocation of birds from Belarus to Lithuania, and the results are already exceeding our expectations. So also project achieved very good visibility and awareness raising results, and generally maintaining good image of aquatic warbler conservation. And image in the left lower corner, right lower corner, you can see one site in Lithuania where in blue dots there are individual males counted and mapped, and this is example of how one of the breeding sites of aquatic warbler in Lithuania is look like. So 79% of the all breeding sites of aquatic warbler are declared for aquatic warbler agro-environmental scheme, which I mentioned before, and those are blue sites, blue plots of the meadow. So the main blue dots are on them, and we are working closely with farmers, promoting agro-environmental scheme and making them to participate, because this is the only way to ensure that aquatic warblers have possibility to breed in the meadows and not face mowing of the meadows, which disturbs them and most birds are dying from machinery in meadows. So we also made a huge work identifying potential stepping stone habitats in Lithuania. We worked, performed GIS analysis of all the peatlands in Lithuania, which are quite numerous or big amount of work done already, and we worked initially with more than 1,000 peatlands, which were selected already from big database, and those 1,000 peatlands were selected already met some primary criteria, and we made hotspot analysis to select only those peatlands that are quite grouped in quite compact or easy recognizable spots, and you can see them highlighted in the map from the right hand. And at the moment we shortlisted all the potentially suitable peatlands to 100, to top 10, top 100, and those 100 peatlands were visited by our experts, and evaluation of them was done in place, and at the moment we are working on preparation of analytical report. Also, habitat restoration, I would not came in much details to this topic because it's quite a standard, and we are focusing in forming of as large areas and interconnected areas as possible, and for this we are working on wetlands which are usually during summer not flooded totally and are suitable or can be suitable for breeding of aquatic warbler, but they are usually overgrown with shrubs and monotonical reed stands, and we are facing problem because of floods and mild winters, because to perform moving of the unsuitable vegetation, we need that the surface of the mire should to be frozen and to allow implement our activities mechanically. Otherwise, it's impossible. And most of the area is declared under agro-environmental measures, and moving is performed by farmers, but the project acts in most extreme areas which are not declared. So we are facing, as I said, some extreme conditions and some risk with the heavy machinery. One of the project sites in Belarus is exploited peatland, where peat extraction already is not performed, and area was too dry and needs to be rebuilt or renaturalized totally. So revetting and seeding of sedges are planned and already implemented in Belarus in such this project site, and the site looks quite promising, because after restoration, and if habitats will be restored in nearest future, if sedges establishes there be a new breeding site in Belarus, which is between several important areas where aquatic warblers already breeds. So probably this will be a new breeding site, and we hope for success in there. And in biggest peatland, biggest mire, Zvanets mire, which is in southern part of Belarus, mowing and burning of sedges, not sedges, reeds were performed in quite a big areas, and it's already observed during the monitoring activities that these measures are very effective and gives good results, because breeding density of aquatic warbler in managed sites, in burned sites, is very high, and those measures will be continued furthermore. And in Zvanets mire, it is raising of water level is also implemented, and it's affected more than 3,000 hectares of area. So it's, as I mentioned already, it secures breeding conditions and for aquatic warbler, and also gives good results already. In Lithuania, we have selected one polder where also already built special water channel sluice, because we want to, in cooperation with farmers and local municipality, we agree that we can perform or ensure water regime that would be more favorable for forming sedge communities in meadows instead of cultural grasses which are predominated, and this work is already done also, and next season we will implement all the measures that were planned and to see if some results are appearing. And so we came to translocation activity, which is implemented in Žuvintas Biosphere Reserve. Because of, I just see that I'm short in time, I will mention just maybe some most important moments. So translocation was decided to implement with cooperation and with approval with specialists of scientific advisory board of the project, which involves international team of scientists who work with aquatic warbler conservation internationally. And the idea of the translocation is that if we bring young birds from one site to another, we can make them return to breed next year to the release site, because imprinting in young passerine birds is forming during the age of 30 to 50 days. So if you bring young birds and raise them in the place where you want them to live, so imprinting forms and birds remember that place, or in their map, in their minds, the site is fixed as potential breeding site. So next spring they return to that site where they were grow up. So the source site was selected Zvanets Mire, which is 40,000 hectares big fen mire with the biggest population of aquatic warbler in Europe, which contains from 2 to 4,000 single males. And release site is Žuvintas Biosphere Reserve, which is quite a compact site with slightly more than 200 hectares of suitable habitat, and that makes it easy to monitor return rate of translocated birds. And Žuvintas also was selected because of local population was gradually decreased from 5 singing males in 1986 to 4 singing males in 2016. So it was faced to extinction, and we every year looking for aquatic warbler there with the fear that no birds will come to the site. So the site was important for conservation of former local population and for strengthening it. And in the map you can see Zvanets Mire, which is in southern part of Belarus, and Žuvintas, which is in southern part of Lithuania. The direct distance between the sites is nearly 300 to 400 kilometers. But the road, driving road, which the birds, translocated birds should travel is more than 500 kilometers, because we need to go to one special border crossing point in Lithuania, because veterinarian site is only situated there, and to go to Marijampolė district, to Alytus district, to Žuvintas Biosphere Reserve. So distance is quite big, and this was the main challenge to bring young birds from one side to another. And translocation was performed in some stages. During the first stage, team of Belarusian colleagues, ornithologists, were asked to find 10 nests with youngs, which were up to 5 days young of age, and these nests with youngs were brought to the laboratory and started to feed by supervisor, by people. And another stage is transfer from Belarus to Lithuania. Transportation distance is nearly 500 kilometers. We traveled during the night, because at the night, during the dark period of night, birds sleep, and you don't need to feed them, because usually when we have 50 young chicks of aquatic warbler in 10 nests, we should feed every bird every 20 minutes. That means that if only 1 or 2 people are involved in feeding, it's constant work, because you cannot underfeed them. So we traveled during the night, and feeding frequency gradually got longer, because in Žuvintas Biosphere Reserve we also birds were kept in cages, initially in small boxes where only nest fits, and later the birds were moved with the nests to bigger cages, which are in the photo. And in the cages, birds were kept until they start to feed independently, and they started to avoid people. They started to show some signs of aggressivity to each other, and this was the signs that it's time to transfer birds to special aviaries, and this is the final 4th stage of translocation. So some week with some more days they spent in field aviaries, where additional food supply also were supplied for them, and we all the time had observations if they feed normally and if everything is all right with them. And after that, we performed soft release. That means that we just opened special windows and doors and let birds to move freely outside the aviaries, and they observed when they came back initially to spend the night in the cages, and in the morning they left them. So we had some interesting experience with this job. So 2 rounds of translocation were successfully implemented in years 2018 and 2019, and in total we transported 100 birds, from 100 young chicks, 50 in 2010 and another 50 in 2019. And which is most important to mention is that in first year we raised 98% of birds. That means that one bird did not died. Sorry for. And in the next spring we found in the Žuvintas Biosphere Reserve 11 birds. In total 11 birds returned, so the return rate was 22%, and that means that we observed 9 males, nine singing males and 2 females with broods, with their chicks already raised in the year 2019, and we can recognize all the individual released birds because of special rings, green plastic rings, which were with 1 number and 1 letter and unique combination, and we during the observation we can document observation of all the individual birds. And 3 of the birds released in 2018 were observed also this year, so they came for second breeding season, returned for second breeding season in the territory which was the main results of translocation are shown in this graph, because this population of Žuvintas Biosphere, aquatic warbler in Žuvintas Biosphere Reserve, and in blue color there is amount of native birds, and in orange, there are translocated birds which were observed in the same habitats. So we can see that in the year 2019, almost only fifth or fourth part of the total population were formed from with the birds that we that return independently from us, which were not ringed, and they return naturally, and there was 4 birds without rings, and other part of the population was our translocated birds which return. And in the second year after translocation, in this year, the population of unmarked birds also already was bigger than translocated birds, and we believe that most part of these birds was broods from the birds that bred in year 2019. And this chart shows total population in Lithuania, changes of total population of aquatic warbler in Lithuania, and orange line shows fluctuations of population of Žuvintas Biosphere Reserve, which is quite similarly affected. So maybe these statements will be left at the presentation, which you can see in the website. So thank you. Sorry for bigger time, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for your presentation on the aquatic warbler, Gintaras. It's very interesting to find out about the natural and social measures used to conserve the aquatic warbler, especially in relation to the biogeography of the area, which is obviously important whenever talking about species under the EU Birds Directive. We have one question from Peter, touching on the social measures that were used in this conservation project. He would like to ask, how do you approach the farmers to change their regular mowing time? Are they compensated for that?
Yes, they receive payment, which is paid accordingly measures they implement. If they actually can choose voluntarily. We cannot force them to not mow meadows, not leave grass until 15th of August. And we just ask to do that because I would say it's quite it's social specific in that, because not all the farmers have their own farms. They have land, they have necessary machinery, or are able to rent some machinery, and usually they have contracts with bigger farmers which have farms, and they supply or sell the hay or the cutted grass to bigger farmers. And there is quite the profit for landowners is quite similar, and people usually choose to save bird, to behave good for nature, rather than just take money and destroy all on the land that they own. So we are working with farmers and asking them kindly to protect nature. And yes, they are compensated. They receive money from the state agencies.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that. It sounds like that approach seems to be working very well, and it's heartening to hear that the aquatic warbler is making a recovery in Lithuania and surrounding regions. So thank you very much for your talk once again, Gintaras.